Are you full of energy? That's better. I like it. Good. All right. So I want you to write this down. If you're taking notes, which I hope you are, just write down my job. Write down my job. And then I want you to write down number one. Write down prospect. Anybody surprised by that one? Your job is to what? Prospect. Number two, your job is to, anybody want to fill in the blank? You know what it is? If you prove, yeah, I like it. Yeah, your job is to, I like that. Yeah, no, that's good. It's all good. Daniel says it's a prospect and prospect. It is. It's a prospect, 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 and prospect. So number one, it's to prospect. But what we know is that, Monica, that when we prospect, really what are we trying to do? What is prospecting? It's about generating what? Generating leads. Okay, we're trying to generate leads. Okay. When we talk to people, do most people say yes or do most people say no when we call them to talk about real estate? They say no, right? But some of the people will say yes, but some of those people will say yes, but not right now. So therefore, number two, we have to what with those people? Follow up. So number two, it's follow up. Your job is to follow up. So number one, my job is to generate leads through prospecting. Number two, it's to follow up. In other words, to incubate those leads or to nurture those leads, to develop those leads, to convert them from a lead to a what? Do leads do any good? Do leads ultimately do any good? The answer is no, because the leads don't do anything for you in terms of your business. Only clients do. Does that make sense? So you're trying to convert your leads to what? Clients. And that's what the follow-up process is about. It's the maturation of a lead from a person who might potentially be interested in buying or selling real estate to someone who's interested in buying real estate through who? Through you, right? You're looking kind of confused. Who do you want them to work with when it comes time to buy or sell real estate? Just checking. Okay, good, right? Well, that's what the follow-up process is. It's about getting them to choose to step number three, which is what? You've generated a lead. Now you followed up with them and they said, okay, now we're ready to what? Set the appointment. That's it. Great job, Monica. Step number three is to set the appointment. Okay. So we want to go out and we want to call people we don't know or people we do know and convert them to a potential client. That's prospecting, generating leads. Step number two is to follow up with them. Following up is about maturing them to the point where they're ready to sit down with us at the appointment. And what's the purpose of the appointment? What are we there to do? Close the deal. In other words, get them to sign a what? Yeah, a buyer broker agreement or a listing agreement. Either one, right? Well, so that's step number four. So in that process, what do we call that? We call that presenting. We're presenting to them. Okay. When we present to them, then we close them. We close them for a signature on the agreement. Okay. So what is your job? Just somebody repeat those four things.
Prospect, follow up, set appointment,
and present. Those four things. Now, what do those four things have in common? What do they have in common? Look at those four things. They all have one thing in common. I'm going to say this. If you don't get it, you can say, oh, duh, obviously. What is the one thing? Okay, well, yes, it's your job. They're saying, it's me? Yes, because you're the one who's got to do it. Unless you figured out a way to get somebody else to do all of those things, but you get paid all the money, then I would say, yes, you're correct. Yes. But what else? What's the commonality between those four things?
talk to people.
Yes, and what do we call that? We call that communication. Great job. The commonality between those four things is communication. Okay. And really, ultimately, in the process of communicating, what you're trying to do with these people, here's what I want you to recognize is that you are a leader. You're not a real estate agent. You're a leader. Okay. There are plenty of real estate, quote unquote, real estate agents out there, and they're broke. They don't make a lot of money. And 80% of them who get into the business get out within 24 months. And those are all facts. Okay. The world doesn't need more real estate agents. The business of real estate doesn't need more real estate agents. The public doesn't need more real estate agents. What they need is more what? For leaders. Leaders are really good at communicating. They're exceptional at it. Because leaders have what? You can't be a leader if you don't have what? Followers. I want you to write that down. I'm not a leader if I don't have followers. John C. Maxwell jokes about this. He said, somebody who claims to be a leader who doesn't have anybody following them is somebody who's just going out for a walk. All right? So isn't that really what you're trying to do? Every single day as a leader, you're going out there and trying to convince people, change their perspective, change their view of you, build rapport, build value, at least in their eyes, towards you, so that they choose you versus the competition. So they follow you through the process of what? Buying and selling real estate. Right? Say yes.
Yes.
That's what you're trying to do. Well, you do that through communication. So what I want to do in the few minutes that we have remaining, I want to work on role playing one simple conversation. The conversation of working to build value, whether it's in a prospecting call or more specifically in a listing presentation, or it could work as well in a buyer broker agreement presentation. We were trying to get somebody to sign a buyer broker agreement. So I just want to set the stage here. Imagine that you're sitting down with a seller at the kitchen table, and we're trying to get them to choose us, you, versus the competition. We've got to build rapport. In other words, we want them to like us, trust us, and respect us. There needs to be a connection. Yes? Say yes. That's absolutely necessary. But this is a business relationship. In business relationships, we don't just need a connection. There's also something else that needs to happen if they're going to choose us. What do we need to represent to them? What do we have to offer to them if they're going to choose us and pay us a lot of money? Say it loudly. Value. Yeah, Juan says value. You have to build rapport and you have to offer value. If you offer those two things to a high degree, guess who they're going to choose versus the competition? Yeah, you, because you've done your job. So let's just go through the role play of that scenario. Just imagine, Monica, you're the seller, I'm the agent. And what I want to do is I want to work on building your perception of my value to you so that you can feel comfortable in choosing me versus the hundreds or thousands of choices that you have in the marketplace. Fair enough? Okay. So let's just imagine that we've done the introduction. I've asked you what you're trying to accomplish. You want to, move into a larger home, families expanding, want to be in this area because of the school districts, want to be on this type of lot, this type. We've done all of that. Okay. Then I'm going to transition from that. I'm going to say, well, now that I know that, that's absolutely exciting. Congratulations, Monica. I am so excited to help you. Assumptive close. Okay. Share with me, what do you expect me to do as an active professional agent to actually get your home sold? What are the things that you believe that I should be doing in today's market to actually get your home sold for top dollar in the time that you want so we can get you and your family to that new home in the school district that you want to be in? Okay, I love it. She did what a lot of sellers will do. They'll say it oftentimes this way. They'll say, well, I don't know. I mean, you're the expert. You tell me. That's why you're here, right? So the way I'm going to respond to that is, you know what, Monica, you're right. It's called a level shift. I'm going to hear what she said and I'm going to interpret it. What I really hear you saying is that I'm the professional and that, oh my heavens, I should know what I need to do, right? That's why we're here talking, right? Well, having said that, let me ask you, is communication important to you? Would that be important to you through the process? Okay. So I'm going to write that down. So I write down communication. Would it be okay if I write it down? Okay, great. Because I don't want to forget that because I want to make sure we talk about it. All right. So communication is important. How about this? How about marketing? Do you think that marketing would be important in terms of getting your home sold? Okay, great. So let me write that down. And you're spot on. Marketing is absolutely important. It's quite frankly, I would call it one of the four corners of being able to get a home sold. It's foundational. So let's make sure we write that down. Okay, great. Is there anything else that you can think of? Just go ahead and say no in the interest of time. No, that's it. So what I hear you saying is that communication and marketing are the two most important things to you. Okay, cool. So if we talk about communication and marketing and you feel good about those two things, are you comfortable in moving forward so that we can get your home on the market and get it sold? Okay, so setting aside commission, right? Because that's going to be easy. You and I are going to be able to work on that. But Setting aside that, once we talk about communication and marketing, and you feel good about that, are you going to be ready to get your home on the market and get it sold? Okay, great. Now notice what I'm doing. Well, first of all, who's controlling the conversation? And who should control the conversation? Because who's the leader, right? My job is to help her discover what's important to her and then address those things. See, what most real estate agents will do is they'll go in and talk about all the things that the agent thinks is important, and then like take a shotgun approach as to what they're going to talk about, which is everything from A to Z, from the kitchen sink to the toilet, right? And everything in between, and hope that because of that, somehow the seller is going to choose them. The problem with that is you don't know if you're actually talking about the things that are most important to the seller. So that's why I asked Monica, what's important to you? Now she turned it back on me and said, well, gosh, I don't know. I mean, you tell me, you're the expert. Or I don't remember exactly how she said it, but it was basically like, I don't know. I mean, somebody's going to work hard. Well, what does work hard look like, right? Is communication important? Well, yes, it is. Is marketing important? Yes, it is. If I ask her, is marketing important to her, and she says no, am I going to talk about marketing? I got a lot of great things to talk about in terms of marketing. Century 21 is an amazing company. What my company does is amazing. So should I talk about marketing? Say it, Monica. No, because she said, is it important to her? Well, wait a minute. If you said it wasn't important to you, would we talk about it? No, we wouldn't. The only reason we're going to talk about it is because she said what? It's important to her. So my job is to isolate the things that Monica believes are most important in the process of getting the home sold. It doesn't matter what I think is important. What matters is what she thinks is important, because whose expectations have to be met here? See, relationships will break down, they will fail when you don't discover expectations and you don't meet them. How many have ever been married before and then got a divorce? Have you ever seen anybody get married before and get a divorce, right? Do you see what happens? They have expectations. Expectations are both going to be happy. Expectations that one person's going to behave a certain way and the other person's going to behave a certain way. And then they get together and they do their thing, and each of the people are not behaving the way the other person thought. And so therefore, what happens to the relationship? It breaks down, right? And then therefore they end up getting a what? Well, that's what happens in a real estate relationship as well. If you don't discover their expectations, you don't meet them, you never get an opportunity to get to the altar, so to speak, right? Or if you actually get to the altar, you get married and you're taking them through the process and you fail to meet their expectations, they're going to come back to you and say, what? Yeah, I want a divorce. I want to cancel the listing agreement. I want to find an agent who's actually going to meet my what? My expectations. So Monica identified for us through leading questions. She didn't give me these answers, but I asked her if they were important. That's really important to recognize what I did. Monica didn't say, well, what do you believe I should be doing? And she said, well, John, number one, I want you to communicate. And number two, marketing is exceptionally important to me. She didn't give me that. I had to lead her to that by asking a leading what? Leading question. So I asked her, is communication important to you? And she said, what? Okay, this is the way I'm going to handle it. So communication is important to her. So let's just go through that role play. Watch this. So is communication important to you, Monica? It is. Great. Well, tell me more about that. Okay. So you want updates and you'd like to get an update within a couple of hours. When you say updates, share with me what sort of information you want to get updated on.
I guess just a weekly update of what's going on.
Okay. So what I hear you saying is that you want to get an update on everything that's happened on a weekly basis, an update on what the buyers are saying who've seen the home, what their agents are saying, and then ultimately, would it be important for you to hear what I've done in terms of marketing your home and my efforts and my company's efforts to locate a buyer and get your home under contract and get it sold? Okay. So if we did all of those things and we did that on a weekly basis, how would you want to communicate that information? Would you want me to call you? Would you want a written report? How would you like to get that information? Email would be great. So if I put together just a quick report on all the activities that happened for the week, basically gave you a synopsis of what everybody was saying, what I did, what my company did, and where we are right now in terms of getting your home sold, that would meet your expectations? Is there anything else that we would need to do to make certain you were absolutely confident and comfortable with the way we're communicating?
No, I mean,
Okay, so if we were doing that just as we described it here on a scale from 1 to 10, how would you feel about that? A 10, perfect. Well, so let's agree to this. On Fridays every week, what I will do is I will send to you a report. Now, I can also offer you this if you'd like to. I can send the report to you, and then we can designate a specific time every Friday just to get on the phone for just a couple of minutes and digest it. That way, if you have any questions, you can ask me. Would that be even more beneficial to you? Would you like that? Okay, great. So again, on a scale from 10, how would you feel if we were doing that? Okay, great. So if we were to decide to work together just based upon communication, would you be ready to get started? Great. Do you see this? Okay, I could go in and talk about how many of you have a list of the 21 things or the 18 things or the 30 things that you do when you list a home? Any of you have a list like that? See, most real estate agents will have a list of these are the things that I do. I put the home on the MLS. I put up a sign. I put up the key box. I call a title and get a title report order. I do all of these things. I'll put together a brochure. I'll put the home on Century 21's website. I do all of these things. And then they go through the list of all of those things that they do for the seller. Well, the problem is you don't know if those are the things that the seller wants to what? To talk about. Remember this, the number one human need is what? It's acceptance, it's validation, it's acknowledgement. If I acknowledge what is important to Monica and I do it in that way, the way I just did it, breaking it down methodically, how does she feel about me? Does she feel heard or does she feel unheard? She feels heard. And when she feels heard, right? She feels acknowledged. How does she feel about me? Good or bad? Good, right? And we want her to feel good. Because I know this is not correct. The gooder she feels, right? The gooder she feels, the better off we're going to be when it comes to asking her to sign an agreement. Okay, so let me just show you that process again, but we're going to do it with marketing. So Monica, I wrote down that you said marketing was important to you. Share with me more about that. When you say marketing is important, tell me what you mean. Okay, so you want some professional pictures. Okay, let me just write that down. Okay, great. Okay, open house. You know, that is a great question. What I would tell you is that we do everything that a professional agent and an organization like Century 21, the number one organization in the world for real estate in the entire world, with over 140,000 agents in 90 countries. I mean, my heavens, we sold 7,000 homes last year, Monica. And so my question for you is, how many homes do you want to sell? Just this one? Because I can sell more if you'd like to. Well, the cool thing. Well, and of course, and I'd be happy to chat with you about that one as well. But first things first, let's get this one on the market and get it sold. So if we're taking professional pictures, in other words, what I hear you saying is you don't want me to do what most real estate agents do, which would be bring in their iPhone and act like they're a professional photographer, snapping photos of your home and then uploading that to the internet. You don't want me to do that, do you? So you would want me to hire a professional photographer. Well, the good news is this, guess what I do? When I work with my clients, I hire a professional photographer. So you and I are on the same page, all right? And then you said an open house. So here's the cool thing. I do open houses, but I don't do them like most real estate agents. Could I share with you what most real estate agents do versus what I do? Okay, what most real estate agents will do is that they will agree to do an open house. They will show up in a hurry on the Saturday that they said they were going to do it. They're running behind typically. They maybe will put up a couple of signs. They'll turn on all the lights, they'll open the doors, and then they will wait. And then they will wait. And then they will wait, hoping that people will show up. That is not what I do. See, I believe that waiting is not a good approach to getting your home sold. Do you want an agent who's going to wait and be passive, or would you like an agent who's going to be proactive? Proactive. So this is what I do. I make certain that I promote the open house online. I make certain that I reach out to your neighbors by calling them as well as door knocking before the open house to let them know that your home is going to be open. Because guess who can be some of the best salespeople to actually get your home sold? Your neighbors. Yeah, because obviously they love the neighborhood, don't they? Otherwise, why would they live there? Right? So I'm going to do my job and make certain that the people in the area know that your home's on the market, because maybe they have a friend or a family member who's mentioned, if a home ever comes up in the neighborhood, please let me know, because I would like to live in the neighborhood, get closer to you. So I guess my question for you is, would you like to work with an agent who's proactive in doing open houses and actually making certain that it works, that it's not just a waste of your time, where they ask you to leave for a few hours, get your home ready, look like a model, and then they don't do their end of the bargain? It's crazy. That's what they do. So based upon that, based upon the way I've described, I'm going to do it on a scale from 1 to 10. How would you feel about us working together in terms of marketing? There you go. Great. Do you see, gang, how that works? Do you? Caesar, questions? Any thoughts to it?
No, those are the phone calls that I made.
Okay. So here's what I want you to consider. I want you to consider role playing that. Okay. Role play that process. Instead of telling people what you do, ask them what is important. What do they expect? And if they say, I don't know, which the role play partner should, I don't know, you're the expert, then ask them leading what? Ask them leading questions and give them some suggestions. Some of the leading questions you could ask is communication important to you? Is marketing important to you? Is the ability of the agent to negotiate important to you? Right? Is the brand recognition or the reputation of the company important to you? Is the number of homes that the company sells important to you? Is the size of the company and the number of agents, the salespeople that they have working for them, and the presence that the company has in the marketplace important to you? Of course, I'm asking questions that if you set it up right, that you're going to hit a what? You're going to hit a home run, because all of those things, you should have some amazing positive things to say in terms of all of those topics. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. All right. Any thoughts, any questions, any amens as we wrap this up? All right, very cool. Okay. Well, let's pass around the tin and let's get those dollars. Okay. All right, gang. Let's finish it up with some closing affirmations.